Hello guys, this is my Teferi Temporal Archmage deck tech, and I know a lot of you are going to be yelling at me for introducing this misery incarnate, but I feel like I have to. I'm very proud of what I made here. It is it's incredibly impressive, but I enjoy every minute of playing this deck. So if you don't know what he does already, he was one of the 2014 commanders, the monocolored Planeswalkers, of course, and his +1, if you don't already know, is look at the top two cards of your library, put one of them in your hand, and the other on the bottom of your library. And his -1 is untap up to 4 target permanents. That is the key ability here. And his alt is you get an emblem with you can activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control any player's turn anytime you can cast an instant. And of course he can be your commander. He has 5 loyalty. And start off with the land base here. Most important part, I, just like my other deck tech with Azami, I do play 22 snow-covered islands. Very important because we do play extraplanar lens. You definitely want to keep that in mind whenever you build any monocolor deck, that you do need snow-covered islands or snow-covered lands of any type. Basically, extraplanar lens, you need that. It's a little bit of advantage that you don't want to give to your opponent, but it does make a difference. And I do play all 4 fetch lands that you can play in these colors. Pretty expensive, but it's definitely worth it to thin your deck. Myriad Landscape, same reason, but it does technically ramp us up 1 mana. Eldrazi Temple, because this is a Stasis, a Titan Stasis deck build, so you know I'm playing Eldrazi in here. And definitely helps that we can untap with Teferi, gets us 2 mana for our Eldrazi spells. Strip Mine, this deck absolutely hates lands. Definitely you don't want them to untap their lands, you don't want them to have any important lands. Strip Mine, probably one of the best lands in Commander. Seed of the Synod, we have Artifact Search in here, we have Transmute abilities, we can definitely search it up if we need that land. We have Trinket Mage in here, definitely need it. Halimar Depths, definitely good, have that Sensei's Divining Top type ability. Academy Ruins, one of the best lands in the game, gets us back any of our awesome artifacts that have been destroyed or have been milled out into the graveyard. Definitely one of the most important lands in the entire deck. Teleria West for Transmute, most of the time we're going to use this to get Mana Crypt. Definitely can't go wrong there. Buried Ruin, same thing as Academy Ruins. You definitely need Graveyard Recursion for your artifacts. They are some of the best in the whole format. And our last land is Inventor's Fair. At the beginning of our upkeep, if we control 3 or more artifacts, we gain a life. And for 4 mana, we tap the ability, sacrifice it, and search for our library for an artifact card, reveal it, and put it into our hand, and then we have to shuffle our library. And we can only do this if we control 3 or more artifacts, so keep that in mind. So total, that is 35 lands. Definitely have a ton of mana to work with, so you can even afford to go less on the land base. Obviously here we go into mana ramp and our artifacts. Mana Crypt, best card in the format, definitely have to play it, especially with this deck. Lotus Petal, 0 mana, gets you that extra bit of blue mana. You definitely need this if you especially want to combo out sooner. Everflowing Chalice, it's one of those searchable artifacts that we have in here that we can dump a whole bunch of mana into and have an artifact that taps for, you know, a whole bunch of mana. We can untap it. Soul Ring, Mana Vault, definitely want the quick ramp. Mind Stone gets us a little bit of card draw if we absolutely need it to. Grim Monolith, same thing as Mana Vault, basically. There are combos in here that interact with Monolith as well. Sapphire Medallion gets us to ferry out quicker, pretty much all we need. Born Power Stone comes into play tap, but we have Teferi to untap it. Basalt Monolith combos just as a Grim Monolith does. And I'll get to the combos and everything later, but definitely you need both monoliths. Extraplanar Lens, I cited the importance of it earlier. Definitely good for 3 mana. 4 mana, 3 in Dynamo. Definitely comes into play on tap. Can tap it for 3. You're basically just losing 1 mana to have. You're paying 1 mana to effectively ramp up 3 mana your next turn. Good investment. Gilded Lotus, 5 mana for 3 mana colored. Gauntlet of Power, mana doubler. Don't care about the creature buff, but it's definitely good to have as many mana doublers as you have. Dreamstone Hedron, absolutely, kind of like, what was the other one here? Mind Stone. It's a lot like Mind Stone, but this one is for 3 mana, you tap it and sacrifice it to draw 3 cards. So you do have that option if you're just dead in the water and you don't have any card draw. Definitely important. And of course, the last mana ramp we have here is Cage Sun. Pretty much can't go wrong with mana doublers and a whole bunch of mana rocks. Now to the non-mana ramp associated artifacts. We have, of course, Sensei's Divining Top. Fits into every deck, why not put it in here? Voltaic Key, so good when it comes to untapping our monoliths. Mana Vault, definitely useful for that, and it's part of combos too. Now here's where we get to the cancer, and you guys are gonna fucking hate me for this, but I do it anyway. I play Winter Orb in here, hilarious in the deck. Perfect because you can untap all the lands, all the mana you want. Your opponents don't get any of it. Fucking hilarious. They have to wait to untap. Torpor Orb, another bit of cancer. You guys already know where we're going here. Basically hoses all of the ETB decks. Love it. Rings of Brighthearth gives you infinite mana with the monoliths and combos off with the Chain Veil, which we're going to get here shortly. Just perfect for this deck. Static Orb. Pretty much they can only untap 2 permanents during their upkeep. Definitely continue the oppression there. Tangle Wire, pretty underrated in Commander, but with this deck all it really needs to do is just last for a few turns. That's all you need, is to tap down your opponent's mana or their artifacts, anything to slow down their progression while you try to speed up. Orb of Dreams, all permanents coming into play tapped. And of course the other card in this deck works perfectly with Orb of Dreams. Basically it's a stasis lock here that we're going to get to. Phyrexian Metamorph, copies artifacts or creatures. Can't really get much better there. And the Chain Veil. Probably the biggest combo piece in the entire deck. For those of you who don't know what it does, the beginning of your end step, yada yada yada, that ability doesn't matter. Pay 4, tap it. For each Planeswalker you control, you can activate one of its loyalty abilities once this turn as though you did not. Why this is so important is because we play a shit ton of mana ramp in our artifacts. All it takes is 4 untaps. If we have mana rocks that can provide the 4 mana for this ability, we can go infinite. We can go infinite with Teferi. We can cast our Eldrazi. We can cast our other Planeswalkers. We can go off very early because of the Chain Veil. Paradox Engine, fucking more cancer that just helps this deck so much. We have so much artifact ramp. Untap it all every time you cast another spell. It's easy to just keep going with this deck. Definitely gets you up there in mana. Now, even though we have a ton of mana, we also need a lot of early card draw. Mystic Remora is definitely one of the better ones, because not only does it get us our card draw, but it keeps our opponents in check too. If they have a non-creature spell, they may want to hold off, but if they do, they're going to have to pay 4 mana, or they're going to let you just draw a card. And one of the key cards of the deck, and it's definitely where this deck gets its namesake, Stasis. Players don't get an untap phase. Pay blue your upkeep or it's destroyed. Not a problem at all. Teferi loves this bitch. Ristic Study, you guys know what that shit's about. Rising Waters, basically a Winter Orb, but for blue, 4 mana total. Can't go wrong there, just a little bit of added stuff. Pendril Mists. For those of you that don't know, it's based off of a much more expensive card, the Tabernacle at Pendril Vale, which is like $1,200. Yeah, not getting that anytime soon. Too expensive. A little bit out of my budget. But it's a nice reserveless card, but has the ability, each creature gains during your upkeep, pay 1 mana or bury it. Yeah, they're not going to have enough mana to untap that. Parallax Tide. Wow. You guys are going to fucking hate me so much if you ever happen to play me. Oh my god. Fading 5. You can remove a fading counter to exile a target land from the game. And if it happens to leave, they get all their lands back. But that's not going to happen anytime soon because we're going to lock them out. Wow. Only 4 mana. And you can just shut them out for a decent number of turns. Chances are you're going to win before they ever get anything back. Now we move on to this sexy asshole. God, I love this deck. Jace the Mind Sculptor, 1v1, he's a nightmare. Fucking multiplayer games, he's not that big of a deal. But he definitely, if you can get the Chain Veil Infinite combo going, his ult, pretty much a game winner. Tezzeret helps us get the Chain Veil. I don't know what else to say. He is part of the combo too, if you can get him out there. His +1 pretty much goes infinite with the Chain Veil if you already have it out with Teferi, but most of the time you're just going to let him die to get you the Chain Veil. Tamiyo, very underrated, probably the most underrated Planeswalker, but her +1 definitely keeps you in so many games, so many good artifacts to tap for a bunch of mana. You can tap down just awesome creatures, and the -2, it's sometimes relevant, but most of the time I'd never use it. Her ult is awesome too, which if you can get off with the Chain Veil, you basically can just either ponder your way to victory or brainstorm, whatever. And we have Karn. We have our colorless removal. Blue doesn't have a lot of removal, except for the one card I mentioned in my top 10 video. But definitely one of the best removal cards you can ever play in a deck. -3, definitely worth it to get out. And of course, if you ult him, chances are your opponents are just going to give up. It's one of those Shahrazad type of deals. Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, same deal. You +2, you're basically just lightning bolt to victory. And then if you ult him, you're going to win. -X is pretty decent. I mean, it's not that hard to recast Teferi, but yeah, it is possible to just -6 and wipe everything off. We do care more about our artifacts than we do about Teferi. Now transitioning into creatures, kind of convenient, we have one that can also be a Planeswalker. 0/2, he can tap, you draw 1, and then you discard 1. Kind of good, because if you eventually get to 5 in your graveyard, he flips into Jace Telepath Unbound. His +1 is up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 until your next turn. -3 is you can cast target instant or sorcery from your graveyard this turn. That is awesome. It does get exiled, but that is still the best ability. And his ult is, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. Guess what? You go infinite with the Chain Veil, that's most likely a game winner. You just mill them to death. And of course we have Trinket Mage to get us Mana Crypt. Probably the only thing we want to do here. If we don't have Mana Crypt, we're just getting another 0 mana artifact. That's really what we're doing here. Now we're going on to the epicness of the deck, which is why I call it Titan Stasis, because we do play gigantic Eldrazi Titans. Your opponents can't cast spells with even mana cost. I know all the jokes. You can't even do shit. You can't do shit, buddy. You can't even. 9 mana. Might seem difficult. No, it isn't. But yeah, definitely. And then we play Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, because we're not playing the piece of shit from Oath of the Gatewatch. Definitely the better version is the older one. Cast them, you draw 4. Best part, they counter it, you still draw 4. Annihilator 4, if he happens to hit the graveyard too, you shuffle your library. So the Titans do help us from mill. And then we have New Lamog, probably my favorite. Comes into play, or actually cast trigger again. Exile 2 target permanents. Pretty much gonna win if you get this guy out like turn 3, which I have done multiple times in play testing. He is indestructible, so he's a pain in the ass to get rid of, and whenever he attacks, they exile the top 20 of their library. Ulamog, the old Lamog, I should say. The Infinite Gyre, he is 11 mana, he's the most expensive Eldrazi, I should say. There are more expensive cards in the deck, but when you cast him, destroy target permanent. So not as good as the new Lamog, but he does have Annihilator 4 in addition to being indestructible, while also having the benefit of shuffling your library if he hits the graveyard. Now we go on to our Counterspell package here. We have Pact of Negation, protect our combos, our turns where we want to go off and win. Just pay 0 mana. Don't have to worry about your next turn having to pay that mana, because guess what? Your turn, you're gonna fucking win! Force of Will, pretty much 0 mana. You all know what the fuck he does. Look at that guy, he's fucking pissed. He's just raining down all the suppression on you. Teferi, Titan, Stasis. You're not gonna win another game, buddy. Arcane Denial, cheap as shit. Definitely good. It gives you card draw your next upkeep. Who cares? You give them some. It's cheap. Look at that mana cost. You don't get that in a whole lot of other counterspells with any other drawback. Counterspell. Ice Age. Love the artwork. Mana Drain. 2 mana. Basically counterspell with you get X mana your next upkeep, where X is the spell you countered. If you don't win your next turn, you're doing it wrong. Muddle the Mixture. Transmute for something to CMC. Guess what that is? It's Stasis. Cryptic Command. Pretty versatile. We can tap down our opponent's shit and counter target spell, return target permanent to their hand, or we get to draw a card. Pretty versatile. Mystical Tutor gets us instant, usually a counter spell or fabricate or something. Instant or sorcery, I meant. Next we have High Tide. Definitely useful to have this card when we have our general here Teferi. Untap our lands, get double blue. Brainstorm, second best cantrip in the game. Do I have to explain this shit? Frantic Search. Benefit is you untap 3 lands, draw 2, discard 2. Cyclonic Rift. Already mentioned why it's awesome in my top 10. Pretty much best removal spell in the game. Or in the format, I should say. Dig Through Time. We have enough mana to really hard cast this, but most of the time we're just going to delve it out. If we get this off, chances are we are going to get our combo pieces and likely anything like our Stasis cards, anything like that to win. Or lock our opponents out. Pull from Tomorrow. You guys are probably like, what the fuck is this doing in here? This is a new card. It's awesome. With all the mana we can generate, and just put it all into this card, and you draw X, and you just discard a card. That's the drawback. You pay 1 fewer blue than Blue Sun Zenith, and you get 1 extra card draw. Just have to discard a card. For combo decks everywhere, that doesn't matter. Stroke of Genius. Better than Blue Sun Zenith because you don't have to pay extra blue into it. It's just 1 blue. Ponder. Look at the top 3. You know what the fuck it does. Preordain. You guys know what the hell it does. Fabricate. You guys should know what it does by now. Gets us our combo pieces and artifacts. You know what it does. Time Warp. Take an extra turn for 5 mana. Recurable. Time Stretch. Take 2 extra turns. Recurable. It's 10 mana. Super expensive, but guess what? You're most likely going to win the game when you pull it off. So anyway, guys, that was my Teferi Temporal Archmage deck. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. I have other deck techs here. I have one of my friends whose Narset deck is pretty damn oppressive too. I have one of my older deck, Azami, which I turned into this deck, by the way. You can go check out that one too if you want a more fair experience. It's not super fair because I know you guys like to complain about blue. But anyway, Teferi, thanks for watching.